a dear mutual friend of ours, one of my oldest friends, was diagnosed about a year and a half ago with MS. And it's a gut punch. And he's really, really struggling, and it's really taking a toll. And what I said to him was, I had a long conversation with him where he was a little despondent, and he was like, look, if this is where this is going, and I said, dude, we're at a point where literally a year from now, or 6 months from now, it's not just a fantasy that there could be some breakthrough with MS, with cancer, with any number of things. Knowing what you know and the people you talk to on a daily basis, how much of that am I overstating? Or is it really like, with AI, aren't we going to see exponentially a really rapid amount of treatments and cures that, like, even from 1 week to the next, we're going to be like, oh my God.
Well, no question. I mean, is that time frame a week, a year, 5 or 10 years? I really honestly think it's 5 to 10 years. I think that the big change is going to be, as we get older, 80% of all the maladies that befall us are age-related. So if we can stop aging, we can stop 80% of cancers, we can stop, 80, 90% of heart disease. We can stop Alzheimer's, which is essentially totally, unless you're really unlucky and get some of these very rare genes, we can stop Alzheimer's. So I think that, every week, is it going to change in a month? Probably no. But, 1 to 5 to 10 years, that's a finger snap.
Yeah.
And it's going to be in that time range. And I think that there's two big things on the horizon. One is, I think we're working really hard on some of these small molecules and these interventions that can maybe add 5, 10 quality years of life. And we're really close to that. And in animals, there's already multiple. If you're a mouse with discretionary cash, it's great, because there's like 5 or 6 things you can do right now.
Yeah.
Humans, we haven't quite worked it through. But on the horizon are things that you can ingest, and it will turn the clock of your DNA back 20, 25 years, and you can redo that every 20, 25 years. And when that happens, it's just going to be amazing. We can already do it, but all kinds of problems accrue. So the 10-year thing, how we can live to, on average 115 rather than 100, that's really could be very short term. How we can get to 200, that's a possibility. Just that one's further off on the horizon.
Right.
But there's this amazing thing, and then I'll kind of shut up because you got me started, which is a bad thing. When the embryo, when the egg hooks with the sperm, that's not a zero. That's a very old egg and a sperm, because the mom's potentially 40, the dad's potentially 40 or 50. And at week 3, something magical happens. The body recognizes the age, and it re-zeros at 3 weeks. So that's this mechanism. It's called the Yamanaka factors. You won a Nobel Peace Prize for it, where you take this old egg-sperm combination embryo and you reset it back to 0. And they're working like crazy to do that in your whole body. So, I mean, the future is just, I can't wait to see it. And that's what's going to keep, they're going to have to drag me out physically when I die, in the cowboy boots, because I want to be around and see all this stuff up close.
But only, let's be honest, only if it's quality of life.
Of course.
Because you don't want longevity.
No one wants,
where you're laying around
you really want healthspan, because you don't want to be the 80, 85-year-old we saw in our grandparents, where they basically were devoid of life. This is a whole new era where, we don't think you age like this anymore. We think you actually don't age that much from age 70 to 90 if you're lucky enough not to get an injury, if you're working out every day. It's taking a month off on vacations. It's getting a surgery. It's getting an infection. Then you drop and you can't get back up to 0. So we think aging is a discrete number of drops, not a slow, gradual drop. So that's why I'm hoping, in the little research we're doing, to see if people age mid-60s to mid-70s, if we can maintain a VO2 max, if we can maintain functionality, because that's what we're thinking we can have happen.
I mean, you just mentioned something else that I think is important for people who are listening to this. We did a vacation together with a group of great pals and our significant others a few months ago. And it was a week of just fun in the sun and, exotic location. And we were catered to. It was super beautiful and nice. And I noticed that you and I were exercising every day. You were getting up at the crack of dawn. I was sleeping in, but I was getting exercise every day. You could make the argument, well, I mean, come on, you're on vacation. Why can't you just chill out for a week? Well, there was a time when I was younger where that would have made sense to me. But when I hit 60 a couple of years ago, I decided the most I'll go is 36 hours because I start to feel it immediately. If I go a day where I have no physical exercise, which is super rare, but if I'm on a set, on a TV set or something, I'll still do, squats, or I'll do push-ups, or I'll do something. And when I get deprived of what I consider a good hour or so of physical exercise, I get tired and I don't feel anything but like missed opportunity. And maintaining, because like with you, I want to maintain I want to have at least 25 or 30 years, but at the top of my fucking game.
Well, you're an endorphin junkie, which I love.
Totally.
And that's what, differentiate you from Oprah and people like that have all the resources like you do, but really hate exercise. And sadly, probably 20, 30% of people are like that. Even when you introduce them to exercise, they just don't get any benefit from it that they can feel. And so we have to tell those people, hey, do you like to brush your teeth? You gotta exercise for your hour a day. But if you have no immediate feedback, if you don't have that drug effect you and I have, it makes it really hard. Yeah. But yeah, when you look at brain scores in people that exercise without exercise, when you look at mood levels, when you look at your ability to produce, it's just night and day different. And so that's why it's essential if you really want to perform at a high level, but it takes time. There's no free lunch.
Right. And part of it is also I'm married to Daisy Fuentes and I want to keep that spicy.
That's a little incentive.
Yeah. And we have to let's talk about that. Mm-hmm. Talk about the correlation as we get older between sexual function and sexual, and having a great sex life with the other things that you have to do to get there.
Well, I mean, part of sex life is, how you feel about yourself, and that's where exercise is important. Part of it's testosterone. We know exercise is very important for keeping your testosterone up. Part of it is for, energy. You have half the people are struggling to have sex more than, 5 or 10 minutes because their fitness is so horrific, or, what we faced on The Biggest Loser multiple times. When people gain too much weight, it's actually makes intercourse very difficult.
Sure.
So there's just so many different levels about taking care of yourself that aids in, connection with your partner. So,
but you told me something, I just remembered something you told me years ago, maybe 8 years ago, maybe. You said you wouldn't believe how many young athletes are coming to me to get Viagra.
Well, in today's world, it is interesting. There's just so many, especially with the way dating goes down now with apps and whatnot. So you have this fear factor, or you have an initial nervousness or almost trying too hard. So there's like a huge number of people, incredibly young, college, early 30s, that initially in a relationship, it's too much stress, and they want to perform. And by wanting that much, that's a reason for, erectile dysfunction. And fortunately, we do have a great out, because emotional erectile dysfunction, you take a Viagra and that disappears. But yeah, it is really interesting. I think given the way dating goes, and people, I think especially guys, are under a huge amount of pressure. If you can't perform, they feel inadequate. And the minute you even don't perform great once, then it's a returning cycle and you can never dig yourself out. And the more you want to perform as a male, often, those are the times you start going, okay, I hope it works, which is just the death kneel to
Yeah, and when you start thinking about it too much, you've defeated yourself.
Right.
It's also interesting, in terms of people when you age and the natural decline, I guess, if you will, of testosterone, but that we men have, we've got a pill we can take. Women, I mean, the stuff that women are going through during menopause, it just seems like really lagging behind. Am I wrong?
Oh, you're majorly correct. There was a big study came out in 2002. At that point, 40% of women in the country were on hormone replacement therapy. A study came out, estrogen causes cancer. So boom, like that, they pulled all the hormone replacement therapy from women. And literally overnight, you saw these high socioeconomic women, everybody was sweating in unison on an airplane because they're all going through hot flushes. So sadly, on revising the data, two things became apparent. Number one is they overestimated the risk of cancer. And at most, it was like 1 in 1,000, which is less than 0.1% increased risk if you were on the estrogen. And many people believe the placebo group was incorrect. And they were using a synthetic estrogen and progestin. And most people believe that if you use the natural versions, that you would get none and maybe even be protective of breast cancer. So we're finding out the entire woman physiology, the vagina, the labia, all the system is estrogen and testosterone dependent, and it just atrophies and goes away. Like, can you imagine if there was a tendency for men to have the penis atrophy and disappear at age 52? You think Pfizer wouldn't be working days and nights overtime not to find a treatment? And we have a treatment, hormone replacement therapy, which is grossly underutilized in this country.
But what do you make of that? Is it? I mean, I don't want to say, is it just that we're still in such a sexist
it's
society?
A struggle to understand.
How is that not?
Why there is the resistance. And the funny thing was, just to talk more science, in that arm, there was an estrogen-only arm, and then there was a synthetic estrogen and progestin. And here you did have this increase, 1 in 1,000 in cancer, if you believe that data. But in the estrogen-only arm, there was less breast cancer. So why is there a black box on estrogen that says will cause cancer?
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of incongruities that, your theory is as good as any.
Yeah.